桜。 Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to season number 21 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series, presented by SM Racing Products. And with that as well, welcome into 2026. Of course, we had one race right before the start of the new year back at the I don't even remember what track we raced at. I mean, it's been only 2 weeks and already it's gone by that quickly. It's 2026 for all intents and purposes. It is basically a brand new racing season here for the ASRC Oval Series. 200 laps at Five Flags Speedway is going to be the distance here tonight, and I'll tell you what, this is bound to be a pretty fun one here this evening. Five Flags, a lot of history in the real world, a lot of history here in the ASRC Oval Series as well. In the real world, the track opened up back in 1953, of course, down in Pensacola, Florida. It's the eighth time that the ASRC Oval Series has visited this speedway, and in those previous 7 races, we've had 6 unique winners in the form of Tyler McRae as the only 2-time winner. Then we had Chase Johnson, Travis Sukup, Jason Gardner, Brian Zabelski, and Garrett Hess as your other drivers who have taken home wins at this track. And in those 7 races, we've had a grand total of 10 cautions. So really a pretty clean track record here, only averaging 0.7 cautions per race here for the ASRC Oval Series. That said, these super late models these drivers have been handling have proved to be quite a challenge. So we'll have to see how things play out tonight. Saw lots of incidences in practice here this evening. So we'll see how things end up playing out here tonight. Before we have folks make their way down to the starting grid here, we'll take a real quick look down at our championship standings coming into tonight's event. Well, they were loaded in here. I'm not quite sure what happened to them. Of course, new overlay, new software, sometimes new technical difficulties, but it is Brian Sabelski who won last week's race and is coming into tonight's event with 21 points to his name, followed by Kevin Alessia and Jason Gardner tied for second with 14. Then back and forth is Mark Kluge with 13 points, Corey Logan with 12, and Joshua Rudolph with 9, rounding out the point standings so far coming into tonight's event. But how about we take a look at things a little bit more currently as these drivers make their way down to the starting grid here. Starting out on the front row of this one, it was the driver we were just talking about here in that number 85 McConey setup shop entry. It's the driver out of Denver, Colorado. That is going to be Mr. Brian Sabelski. Back in second, that's going to be the number 93 Mr. League Administrator Jason Gardner down there in that gear wrench entry. He's going to be starting off on the front row here. Both of these drivers on the front row, drivers that have taken home wins at this speedway. Back in third, though, that's going to be the 188 of Joshua Rudolph in the Rowdy Energy entry. That's the driver out of Medford, Wisconsin, back in third. Then back and forth, it's the CZ Robotics, number 24 of Corey Logan. Back in fifth, going to be the 45 Motor Racing Network entry of Mark Kluge, followed by the number 7 Save RC's Foundation entry of Kevin Alessia, driver out of Orlando, Florida, rolling it off back there in 6th. Then back in 7th, we have our 2 Canadian drivers, the 2 Mooselanders, Mr. Michael Sparks in the Moosehead Logger entry in 7th, with Daniel Sparks in the Rusty's entry back in the 8th position, rounding out this 8-car field here tonight. 200 laps going to be the distance, and we should be getting ready to go green flag this time by. Slowly but surely, the iRacing.com pace truck makes its way down to the safety of pit lane, and we are getting ready to go racing here, and sure enough, green flag up in the air here at the Five Flags Speedway. So far, so good as we come here to the green flag. Looks like everyone doing A-okay so far, and I lied. We have a driver around already. That's Kevin Alessia in the number 7 machine has gone around, but the green flag is still out here. And it's going to be Brian Sabelski leading the way for the first lap. Just behind Jason Gardner, still riding all over his bumper here. But falling back just a tiny little bit, and of course a little bit of a further gap here to the rest of the field. Joshua Rudolph back in third right now, about a second back from our two race leaders already. As side by side, a little bit further back, Corey Logan and Michael Sparks duking it out with each other here. But things starting to get a little bit more single-filed out here, so we'll take just a moment, see if we can't take a look back and figure out what happened to Kevin to spin him around right at the start of tonight's event. Taking a real quick look back here. For Kevin Alessia, coming to the green flag, everything seemed fine. No, made contact with Corey Logan, and that's what sent him around. That's honestly kind of a shocker that the caution flag did not come out there. But sure enough, we are still green flag racing here. Kevin Alessia currently 4 seconds back from the rest of the field, having to play a pretty decent bit of catch-up here, but slowly but surely working his way on up, about half a speedway back from the rest of the field right here. But Brian Sabelski continuing to lead the way right now in that number 85 machine. So far, having led every lap in tonight's event, but that's not saying a whole lot. We've still got a very long way left to go here this evening. 200 laps. Of course, that is how long we ran for round number 1 of the season as well, and that proved to be a bit of an endurance race for these drivers. Caution-free event, and Brian Sabelski led every single lap except for the very brief amount of time that he had to spend on his pit stop, but so did everyone else, so that doesn't entirely count. For all intents and purposes, Brian Sabelski basically led every single lap. Not only that, but I believe he also lapped the entire field with the exception of, I want to say, Jason Gardner, I think, was the only driver that he didn't. So we'll see how things play out for these drivers here tonight, but so far, Sabelski is off to a very early read here in that number 85 machine. Definitely shown he knows how to wheel these super late model machines here around these various short tracks we've got to throw at him. Of course, next week, heading on over to Hickory Motor Speedway, going to be even shorter than these last couple of tracks we've been to, so that should be pretty interesting to see. I mean, 5 Flags, it doesn't look like a very big track, but it's going to be much less roomy than it is here in a week's time. It's going to be a 250 lap event for that one, actually, so a little bit longer here for these drivers as well. Currently looking down at the number 45 of Mark Kluge, who's kind of a little bit in a bubble right now, up 1 position from where he qualified. About 8 tenths of a second between himself and Joshua Rudolph up in front of him. A full 1.3 seconds from Daniel Sparks behind him. We do have a driver around off the raceway. That's Joshua Rudolph down in the infield. Damage on that Rowdy Energy number 188 machine. But again, no caution flag. He brings it back up. We'll take a quick look back here and see what happened to him. Take a look down here at Joshua Rudolph going down into turns 1 and 2, and looks like he just hit a bump a little bit. The car snapped out from underneath him. A little bit of an impact into the inside wall there, but fortunately it seems like it wasn't anything too drastic for that 188. Definitely able to keep running here. That is going to bump Joshua down 4 positions from where he started, just like that. Brian Sabelski still leading up the front here. All quiet around the speedway. Looks like everyone's more or less gotten everything straightened out. Joshua Rudolph starting to make ground up on the 24 of Corey Logan, though. Rudolph down on the bottom, Logan up on the high line, and side by side down through turns 1 and 2. Logan's going to make the pass around that 24 machine pretty handily there. Corey might be doing a little bit of a more conservative strategy here tonight. Started up in the 4th position, now currently running back in 7th. Of course, last race didn't have any cautions whatsoever, so definitely most likely going to be seeing different strategies here in terms of the pit stops, because that's going to be the biggest thing where drivers are going to be able to make moves happen here tonight, I believe. How about Kevin Alessia here in that number 7 machine, working his way slowly but surely back up to Corey Logan and Joshua Rudolph. These three drivers, the closest battles on the speedway. Kevin fell back to a 4-second deficit when he had that spin back on lap number 1, but he's making his way back up there in that number 7 machine, slowly but surely. First order of business is going to be having to put the pressure down on that number 24 of Corey Logan in the CZ Robotics entry. We'll see how things manage to play out for the driver out of Orlando, Florida. Right now, look at the lap times. Last time by a 17:03 for Kevin, 16:08 for Corey and Joshua Rudolph. So maybe... Oh, never mind. Caution flag is out on the speedway. I'm not entirely sure what for. Everyone seems to be okay. I'm not quite sure what the cause of this caution was. My guess would be for Michael Sparks. So we'll take a look back here and see if something happened to this driver at all that I'm just not seeing. Oh, sure enough, that would do it. Just a little bit of a spin there for the driver out of Calgary there. We'll take another look back right on board here with the driver of the 42 machine, see what he saw going into this incident here. Just a little bit too much throttle, and that car just snapped out from underneath him. So just like that, that will be our first caution flag out on the raceway. Couple of drivers were takers down on pit lane. Looks like Corey Logan, one of them. And then Joshua Rudolph in that 188 came down as well. I would imagine Joshua came down maybe to have damage checked after his little bump against the inside wall there. Corey, on the other hand, I don't believe has gotten damage so far, so I think that was a scheduled pit stop for the driver of that 24 machine. Of course, caution laps do not count here in season number 21, so every opportunity to make pit stops under the yellow is very much a good thing, because if you don't do it under the yellow, you have a very big risk of going a lap down, and if you do, you will not be making that lap back, period. So we'll just have to see how things play out. So far, everyone is still on the lead lap, fortunately. Brian Sabelski and Jason Gardner once again going to be leading the field to green. That's going to be Daniel Sparks and Mark Kluge, Corey Logan, Kevin Alessia, and then Joshua Rudolph and Michael Sparks leading the remainder of the field here. Just like that, though, green flag back up in the air. Once again, we are racing here at the Five Flags Speedway. And immediately, Jason Gardner has a bit of a scrape against the outside wall, but fortunately able to keep it going. Everyone pointed in the right direction here. So far, so good on this hectic restart. Corey Logan up high. And again, drivers scraping along the inside wall here, coming through the front straightaway. Side by side, a little bit further back in the back there is Corey Logan battling it out with Joshua Rudolph. Rudolph, of course, pitted there to get that damage looked at and was down in pit lane for close to 30 seconds. Logan only down there for an 8-second stop, so I think Logan just took a splash of fuel and left. I am not sure if we saw Rudolph take tires or not, or if that was just the damage fix-up on that 188. But I'd imagine we're so early into tonight's event that it was probably just the damage fix-up. How about Kevin Alessia, though, in that number 7 machine, though? Currently up to the 4th position, up +2 from where he qualified. That caution definitely helped that driver recover from that deficit in that early lap 1 spin very well so far here. He's gained himself a couple of spots on that restart. Now looking to try and find a way around that 45 of Mark Kluge, but maybe not quite going to be able to. He's going to drift up the track just a little bit. Now Daniel Sparks thinking about sticking a nose under there in that Rusty's number 4, but not quite close enough to make it happen. But we're only 31 laps into tonight's event. We've still got a long way left to go here. Right on the nose of that number 7 machine here for Daniel Sparks. I'll tell you what, there's one driver that's happy to see these two drivers fighting right behind him. That is Mark Kluge in that 45. Every second that Kluge and Alessia spend battling it out with each other is a second that potentially Kluge can try to pull away here. Alessia going a little bit up to the high side, gets a little bit loose off the corner. Now Sparks is going to try the high line. It is not quite going to work here, and Alessia is going to close the door once again. And now single filing out here once again just a bit. Brian Zabelski up at the front, almost up to a full second lead right now. Currently the battle on the speedway we're looking at right now is the closest battle on the track. Kluge, Alessia, and Sparks. And I'll tell you what, Sparks is just all over the back bumper of that number 7 machine. So far, no contact between the two of them, which is always nice to see, but they are all right over each other here. And it's sounding a little bit like there's drivers scraping the outside wall here. I'm not really seeing it at all. I think maybe what it is with the setup these drivers are running, it might be bottoming out just a little bit. I'm definitely hearing something that sounds like cars are scraping against things they shouldn't be scraping against. Oh, hang on to it. Big wiggle for Sparks as he tries to get that car down the inside coming out of turn number 2. Manages to hang on to it and manages to pull side by side with Alessia, but not able to clear him. Alessia still up on the high line, though. Sparks down on the bottom. The bottom generally is the place you want to be. He's going to be able to keep it side by side here with Alessia. And it might just be right here where we see the pass happen. Neck and neck across the start-finish line, but it is going to be Daniel Sparks that makes the move and makes his way on up to the 4th position. What a battle that has been between these two drivers. Somehow I get the feeling it's not quite over yet. We will just have to see how things play out here. Right now, again, closest battle on the speedway here is between Alessia and Sparks. We do have a second one going on back here as well with the other driver of the Sparks family. That is Michael Sparks here battling it out with the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Michael in that Moosehead Logger number 42, looking wonderful under the lights here tonight. Two of our most green cars really in the field battling it out here for the 7th position. And it looks like Sparks is going to make the pass happen here over Corey Logan. That's going to bump Corey back down to the 8th spot here for the time being, but it's still close between the two of them. Corey could definitely make some ground back up here. We'll see how the lap times look at for these two drivers when we come around the speedway one more time. Going to be a 16.94 for Sparks, a 17.09 for Corey Logan. So Corey very slowly losing pace on that number 42 machine. But again, Corey might be able to make these tires last longer than the rest of the drivers. And when pit stops come around, that might end up being a deciding factor for that 24 machine to get some more spots picked up. So definitely something that we will be needing to keep an eye on here. How about our race leader of Brian Sabelski, though? He is having a pretty quiet, content night here to himself here in that 85 machine. He has led every single lap so far here tonight and is still steadily going without so much of a care in the world right now. Of course, for our first opening race back at the new Smyrna Speedway, It was a 200 lap event just like this one. He led 190 of those laps. And he did lap every single driver in the field. I was mistaken about my statement earlier that he didn't quite lap everybody. No, he lapped every single person on the field, single-handedly. So not quite all that much of a surprise to see him doing as well as he is here this evening, but anything can happen. Still a long way left to go, and the fact that we've had our first caution of the season not too long ago definitely leaves things a lot more up in the air here tonight. How about this battle going on here for 5th, though? Kevin Alessia doing his best to hang on and defend against the 188 of Joshua Rudolph here. These two drivers battling it out for the 5th position right now. Joshua trying to get down to the inside there. Not quite able to. Scrape against the wall for Daniel Sparks. That might allow Kevin to make the move on Sparks here. And once again, we find ourselves in a pretty hectic three-way battle here in the mid-pack. Both Alessia and Rudolph going to get around Sparks now, but will Sparks make that ground back? We have seen that Rusty's number 4 has plenty of speed here. So somehow I get the feeling that that little hiccup's not going to be the end of the story here for the driver out of Calgary, Canada. Single filing it all out just a little bit here. Rudolph running down a little bit closer down to the apron than Alessia or Sparks. And coming across the line, identical lap times for Alessia and Rudolph, 16.97s for both of them, a 16.98 for Daniel Sparks. So all three of these drivers really evenly matched with each other. A little bit of a bobble there for Rudolph, but it's only getting closer between these three, as we've already gotten past lap 50, so already a quarter of the way through tonight's event. And right now, looking at the closest battle on the speedway by a pretty substantial margin is, again, big wobble coming out of turn number 2 for Daniel Sparks. That was quite the bobble there. A slight scrape against the outside wall there for that number 4 machine. That's going to cost him a little bit of ground, but now suddenly Mark Kluge is in the picture as well. Suddenly this has turned into a 4-car battle here for the 3rd position. 3rd all the way back to 6th. All right in a little bubble with each other, and uh-oh, here comes Alessia. A little bit of contact with the 45 of Mark Kluge. That's going to cause a little bit of a stack up. Rudolph makes a little bit of contact with Alessia there. Sparks up to the high line, trying to figure out a way around him. Alessia drifting up the track just a bit. That's going to allow Rudolph to get down to the inside in that 188 machine. Hang on to it, folks. People are getting all over each other here, and we are not even halfway into tonight's event yet. But I'll tell you what, in the wise words of many a NASCAR driver, that's just a little bit of short track racing for you. Everyone's bumping and banging, trying to work their way around this tiny little speedway, but nobody's spinning each other out, and that's kind of the big thing. Still under the green flag, though. I'll tell you what, that 188 is really trying to get beneath Kevin Alessia here. Wow, is he making some moves. He's going to back off there just a little bit, and Alessia's going to send it in deep. He's going to get around Mark Kluge. Now Kluge is stuck up on the high side with a antsy Joshua Rudolph down beneath him. Rudolph's going to get past. Will we see Sparks get past here as well? Looks like the answer is yes. Looks like Kluge either saving a little bit for his strategy. Oh, contact. We have cars around all over the place. Caution flag number 2 is out on the speedway. I'll tell you what, race fans, I think we kind of saw that one coming from a mile away. That was getting very archy-barchy there. Let's take a look back and see what all went down for this incident. So taking a look back here at Joshua Rudolph in that 188 Rowdy Energy machine. Daniel Sparks just behind is really where the contact kind of happened. I think Daniel just carried a little bit more speed into there than maybe he intended. We'll take a moment. We'll ride on board here with the 140, or the 4 machine, excuse me, of Daniel Sparks going down into turn number 1. Both drivers send it in deep. Daniel sent it in just a little bit deeper. So that would be caution flag number 2 out on the speedway here. Fortunately, I don't think there was too much damage involved for either of these drivers. Do have lots of takers down on pit lane. Corey Logan comes back down. Mark Kluge is down. Michael Sparks and Daniel Sparks are both down. Same with Joshua Rudolph. So that is everyone on pit lane with the exception of Brian Sabelski, Jason Gardner, and Kevin Alessia. And Corey Logan's going to be the first driver off. Only a 9-second stop, so I think, again, Corey just taking fuel here. Then it is going to be Rudolph, Kluge, and Sparks. Both Sparks. All 4 of these drivers still down on pit lane. Now Daniel Sparks makes his way out with a 26-second pit stop, a 26-second stop for... No, Rudolph's still down there, excuse me. Mark Kluge, a nearly full minute pit stop, so Kluge does have some damage on that 45 he's having to get fixed. And Rudolph is still down on pit lane. He was not shown the meatball flag by the stewards, and he is making his way back out now, but that was a 45-second stop for Rudolph, a minute for Sparks. But the green flag's back up in the air. We still have some possibly wounded cars on the racetrack, I think, but we are racing once again. Brian Zabelski, Jason Gardner leading the field to green. Kevin Alessia back in third. And 2 drivers have been given black flags, it looks like. Not sure what for. But we have had 2 drivers receive black flags, and both of them are coming back down onto pit lane. That's going to bump Michael Sparks and Kluge back down to 7th and 8th respectively, and they are going to start going laps down here. How about this battle for the race lead here? Brian Sabelski, Jason Gardner. Honestly, Jason was slowly but surely catching our race leader towards the end of that run up until the caution flag came out. I'm curious to see if Jason might have some better long run speed here that I'm not sure about. Michael Sparks has come back out on the speedway, currently being scored 1 lap down. Mark Kluge still down in his pit box, still being displayed the black flag by the marshals. So maybe he had some sort of pit lane violation that I'm not aware of. He's coming as out now, so that was a stop and hold for 30 seconds, it looks like, for Mark Kluge. The only, I would assume that would be a speeding on pit lane violation, but unfortunately, they don't let us up here in the broadcast booth see the reasons for the penalties, so I'm just going to have to kind of guess here on what these black flags are actually being displayed for these drivers for. But fortunately, I can at least see that these drivers are receiving black flags, because in the past, for probably the past 4 years or so, maybe 3 that I've been broadcasting, you couldn't see if drivers got black flagged at all. But looking at this battle for the race lead, it's Brian Zabelski, Jason Gardner, Kevin Alessia, all within 1 second. And all 3 of them pulling away from the rest of the field by a fairly substantial margin. Corey Logan back in 4th right now in that CZ Robotics entry. And I'll tell you what, I was talking about Corey Logan. Corey possibly saving to work on that long run strategy, and sure enough, here Corey is running up inside the top 5 right now, in the position where they started. But considering there was a couple instances of them being in last place, getting all the way back up to 4th, definitely it looks like Corey has the strategy game worked out here this evening in that number 24 machine. So definitely a driver we're going to have to continue to keep our eye on. Up the front, slowly but surely, Gardner is starting to reel in our race leader of Brian Sabelski. We're keeping it right around half a second between the 2 of them. Well, we saw it briefly get down to closer to about 4/10. It looks like Gardner's making up a little bit of ground in in the corners, and we can actually, we hide the battle box here real quick, we can take a look and actually see that. We'll take a look, pull up the sector times here for these two drivers. Of course, here on the ovals, the sectors aren't really all that showing, but sure enough, Jason Gardner slowly but surely is gaining on our race leader, Brian Sabelski, gotten it down to about 0.3 of a second dividing the two of them. And I guess realistically, we can keep the box pulled up here as well. You can take a look at both of these graphs at the same time. On your left, sector comparisons between our two front runners. On the right, the current time deltas between the top three. That time by Sabelski pulls away just a bit from Gardner here. Actually, we can take a look at all three of these drivers, I believe. Gardner, Sabelski, and Alicia. Compare all three of their sectors here. And it seems like the general trend, Sabelski and Gardner and Alicia both generally doing a little bit better than Sabelski in turns 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 is where they're getting thrown off. As that time around, Sabelski again a little bit faster than both of these drivers. It really is just kind of neck and neck between the three of them. I mean, we're talking fractions of a second of difference between these drivers, but right now, Sabelski is back to pulling away from the two of them and gaining a little bit more of a lead. He's up to 0.6 of a second over Gardner and Alicia. The rest of the field currently fairly spread out right now. And we can take a look too at their lap time history. You can see Sabelski is doing pretty good on the lap times right now as well over these other two drivers. Of course, the big question in the long term of things is how that will be looking with tire wear. We also do have some lap traffic up ahead, as it looks like Brian Sabelski is starting to catch up to, I believe, the 188 of Joshua Rudolph is the driver we saw at the front of our screen there. Sure enough, yep, we are catching up to the 188 machine and potentially putting him a lap down here in these next couple of laps. Something big to keep in mind here is, again, with these caution flags not counting, unfortunately, that means that there are no lucky dogs. So drivers will not be able to be put back on the lead lap whenever there's a caution, unless everyone on the lead lap happens to pit and they don't. That's the only way they can get the wave around to be put back on the lead lap. So definitely a rough spot to be in. In the past, it didn't really matter all that much if you got lapped, because there was a somewhat decent chance that there would be a caution and you would get your lap back, but that is not going to be happening here in season number 21. You can see Rudolph, though, Sabelski all over the back bumper here. Actually, sure enough, he's going to keep it up on high and let Sabelski go on by here. So that will be putting Rudolph a lap down, and that puts him in a very difficult situation here for the remainder of the race. He's going to keep it up high and let Gardner get around him in that number 93 machine. And it's crazy to think we're not even halfway into tonight's event yet. We still have got a long way left to go. Unfortunately, it's looking like that 45 machine of Mark Kluge has retired from tonight's event, which is definitely a shame to see. Not sure if that car had too much damage or what, but they went ahead and called it an evening, packed it up, loaded up on the hauler on lap number 62. But still, this battle between Sabelski and Gardner just keeps on keeping on. Kevin has fallen back to about 2.5 seconds back here from this battle. He's currently still running in third position, but he's in above a bubble by himself. 3-second deficit to Jason Gardner in second. 4.5-second advantage over Daniel Sparks. That said, while we have a brief moment where things have calmed down just a little bit, it looks like we finally got the data fixed. Never mind, no, maybe not. I thought we had the data fixed. There we go. Now we have some working data here on our screen. As we can see, Corey Logan now being put a lap down by our two race leaders, but we have managed to get the championship point standings to actually load into our overlay software here correctly. Brian Savelski, he comes into tonight's event. 21 points to his name, 7 points over Kevin Alicia and Jason Gardner, who are currently tied for second in the standings, and Mark Kluge 1 point back from them. Corey Logan another point back in fifth. Joshua Rudolph 9 points to his name, back in sixth. So we're gonna have both of the Sparks family here adding their names to the point standings here tonight. A little bit of a scrape against the wall there for Jason Gardner. He's fallen back now to about 0.7 of a second, roughly, between himself and Savelski. There is another battle happening on the raceway, though. This battle here between Rudolph and Corey Logan. The 188 and the 24 in a little bit of a battle here. Neither of them on the lead lap, but they are battling with each other for position. Michael Sparks just behind in that Moosehead Logger number 42, not involved in this battle, but sure enough, Corey's going to make the call to come down pit lane here under the green flag. That's going to nullify that battle just like that. Rudolph still running. Now the only driver currently being scored as 1 lap down. Michael Sparks currently 2 laps down. Corey, depending on the length of their stop, might actually end up going 3 laps down here. And it's looking like, nope, still 2 laps down, but Brian Sabelski is roaring around the speedway here, so I would imagine that will end up bumping Corey to be 3 laps down here in just a couple of laps. But as Sabelski comes across the line, halfway here in tonight's event, 100 laps in the books, 100 laps left to go. How about we take a moment and ride on board here with your race leader, get some sights and get some sounds from what these drivers are seeing on board these super late model racing machines. And just like that, our race leader of Brian Sabelski comes down to pit lane. This is very interesting because I'm not entirely sure if this is a scheduled stop. Okay, well, Jason Gardner's coming down as well, so this is probably a scheduled stop. I was going to say, with that little strafe against the wall we saw there just a couple laps ago when we were riding on board with Brian, I was worried that this wasn't going to be a scheduled stop, but the rest of the field's coming down with him. Kevin Alessia is coming down now here in that SRC's Foundation number 7 machine. Jason down here on pit lane as well. Looks like Sabelski going to be taking 4 tires. Jason taking 4 tires as well. Or at least looks like it will be. We'll find out. Yep, 4 tires for Jason. 4 tires for Kevin. 4 tires all around for our 3 drivers who have come down pit lane here under the green flag, might I add. That leaves just Daniel Sparks and Joshua Rudolph still in the runnings right now. Both of these drivers pitted down on lap number 62. And it looks like both of them took tires and fuel under that stop, so really curious to see how this ends up playing out for them on this 2-stop strategy. Daniel Sparks in that Rusty's number 4 is our race leader here for the time being, and there is a bonus point that goes out to anybody who leads at least 1 lap. So that'll be a bonus point to the name of Daniel Sparks. Contact there with the 24 of Corey Logan there. A little bit of a bobble there for both of them. Fortunately, both keeping it pointed in the right direction. Corey running with about 30 lap newer tires. Corey no, actually, never mind. I was going to say Corey's running with slightly newer tires, but I don't think so because they only had an 11-second pit stop last time they pitted. Lots of traffic here, all with drivers more or less on separate laps from each other. The only 2 that are on the same lap as each other right now is Kevin Alessia and Corey Logan right now, who are battling for position. Everyone else in this photo is on different laps from each other. Alessia going to try and make the pass on the high side. He gets there, but will he be able to make it stick? Looks like the answer is going to be yes, it is, as that 188 of Rudolph, who is still running on the lead lap on those older tires, holding up Logan just a little bit. Logan now goes up high, trying to get around that 188 of Rudolph, who is on older tires, and contact again. It also looks like the 188 of Rudolph might still have some handling damage from that second caution we had earlier in the event. But I'll tell you what, both drivers getting a little bit argy-bargy with each other here. And again, this is not for position. These are 2 separate drivers on different laps from each other, battling it out. Just behind there, that's Daniel Sparks, who is still our race leader in that 4 machine in the middle of this pit cycle. I'd imagine more than anyone, he would love for a caution flag to come out right now because that would trap the entire rest of the field a lap down. But I don't think he's going to quite be so fortunate because things have spread out here just a little bit. And I say that, drifting up the track, that's the 188 of, well, that's what I get for speaking. I spoke too soon. The caution flag is out. And that puts the field in a difficult situation because now everybody is trapped a lap down. And the only way they're getting that lap back is if Sparks and Rudolph come down pit lane and everyone else skips pit lane under this pit cycle. And Sparks is bringing it almost to a stop. Probably, okay, he's waiting for the pace car to go by. Rudolph's down on pit lane already, even though I don't think that pit lane's open yet. I might be mistaken on that. I don't actually know. I'm not able to see the pit open and close lights. But I don't think pit lane is open yet, so definitely interesting to see Rudolph come down. I'd imagine we're going to end up seeing Sparks come down here as well. But maybe not. He might just stay out. But while we're here, how about we take a look back, figure out what happened to Michael Sparks to bring out this caution flag. And you look down at that Moosehead Logger entry, that's the 42 of Michael Sparks. And looks like it's going to be another solo spin, just like that first one. That one, a much harder impact in the outside wall. There might have been another car making contact there as well. Hold on, let's take another look back. Zoom this thing out a little bit. Because it looks like there might have been another car making contact with the 42 machine, if I'm not mistaken. No, not quite. That was Daniel Sparks scraping up against the outside wall there, so not what I thought it was. Lights are out on the pace truck, and Daniel Sparks has not come down pit lane, so he will be restarting this race as the only driver. Yes, as the only driver on the lead lap. Everyone else is trapped a lap down here. And lights are back on the pace truck. Looks like they have called off the restart. Now they're saying 1 to go. Race officials weren't happy with something they were seeing. Not sure what it was. It'll be Daniel Sparks and Joshua Rudolph leading the field to green. Then Brian Zabelski, Jason Gardner, Kevin Alessia, Corey Logan, Michael Sparks, Mark Kluge. Drivers 2nd through back to 6th are all on the same lap. Green flag up in the air. We are racing once again here at the Five Flags Speedway. So far, so good. Looks like nothing too catastrophic as Kevin Alessia is making some big moves down the inside. Gets around the 93, gets around the 188. Trying to put the pressure down on Brian Zabelski if he's able to catch back up here, which of course is a big if. Also, I was mistaken on the positioning here. Looks like Joshua Rudolph is on the lead lap here as well. I wasn't sure if he was or not, but he is on the lead lap. Zabelski making the move down to the bottom on Daniel Sparks. He's going to be able to unlap himself here. So is Kevin Alessia. And it looks like Jason Gardner more than likely is just about to here as well, because they are all on substantially fresher tires than that 4 machine is. Sure enough, they all get around him. Now we have Joshua Rudolph in that 188, who is one of the 2 drivers on the lead lap here, trying to get beneath that red number 4 Rusty's entry. This is the battle for the race lead. Even though they're not at the front of this bunch of cars, this is the actual battle for the lead of the race right now between the 4 and the 188. Of course, at some point, these drivers are going to need to pit again. And when they do, that will bump Zabelski back up to being our race leader. But for the time being, until that happens to be the case, this is going to be the battle for the race lead, and that is kind of substantial because Joshua Rudolph obviously wants to get up to the front and collect those bonus points for having led a couple of laps as well. So far, it's been just Daniel Sparks leading laps in the middle of this awkward pit cycle. But so far, not quite able to get close enough to make it happen. As we take a look here at the lap times between these 2 drivers, or our sectors, excuse me. Rudolph slightly ahead of Sparks, actually, which is a surprise. But that time by Sparks was faster, so both of them are kind of evenly matched right now. Last time by a 16.78 for Sparks, a 16.83 for Rudolph, so Sparks was slightly faster there. But we'll see how this whole thing plays out. Still got a good 65 laps left to go before we crown a winner here tonight. Tell you what a hectic lap race it has been so far. The most amount of cautions we have ever had at a Five Flags race is 4. And we're currently at 3 right now, so we'll see how things progress, see if that goes any further. Take a look here at our kind of recap of where we're standing right now. 3 cautions for 12 laps. All in all, not that bad considering this is a 200 lap event. 2 lead changes, all have been down on pit lane on these alternate pit strategy. Daniel Sparks currently leads the field. Should he and Rudolph come down pit lane to serve their stops, which I'm pretty sure they're both going to need to make a stop again sometime here soon, that will cycle Brian Sabelski back around to being our race leader. Speaking of, how about this battle for currently for the 3rd position, technically will be the battle for 2nd once the pit cycles continue to work their way around. Of course, I mean, I'm saying all of this on the assumption that Sparks and Rudolph can't make it to the end. It's possible that they could, but I think it's highly unlikely, is my guess. That's where I'm putting it here for the time being, is I think it's very highly unlikely that Sparks and Rudolph will be making it to the end without having to save so much that Sabelski catches up to him. Already 12 seconds between Sabelski and Sparks. That is about coming up on about half a lap. Not quite. The last time by between Sparks to Sabelski, Sparks was a 16.92, Sabelski a 16.71. So actually, I'll be honest, the lap times between the two of them is not as drastic as I thought it was. We do have a battle for the race lead, though, as Sparks and Rudolph, the gap is closing between the two of them. We might see Rudolph finally pick up his first couple of laps led here in tonight's event. Slowly but surely, he is closing in on that 4 machine. And again, as we take a look at their sectors, it's still pretty neck and neck with each other. Only very slight gains and losses between the two of them, but Rudolph definitely does seem to be gaining. I say as he loses a little bit of ground, but that's kind of how it is sometimes. It's a little bit of a game of give and take, and I think in the grand scheme of things, Rudolph is very slowly taking more than he's giving. Now down to about 0.2 of a second between these two drivers. And steadily counting. Still, the lap time difference between Sparks and Sabelski is only about 0.2 of a second. It's going to be close, I think, if Sabelski is able to catch up to these drivers or not. It's really just going to end up being a matter of how these tires fall off and if they even have fuel to the end, because I'm still not entirely positive that Sparks and Rudolph have enough fuel to get to the end of tonight's race. There's still a lot of what-ifs up in the air here tonight, and of course there's also the very big looming what-if of what if there's another caution? What if we do end up getting caution flag number 4, bunching this field back up and starting it all over again? Then we might see a couple of these drivers' strategies really get thrown out the window here this evening. I would imagine a lot of these drivers are kind of hoping that I don't speak the curse into existence, particularly Sparks and Rudolph. I think both of them are really hoping I don't talk us into having something bad happen, because I think out of everyone in the field, I mean, these are the two drivers that are really hoping that this race stays green for the rest of the way, just so they have some sort of chance to win over Sabelski and Gardner in the strategy department, because if the yellow flag flies, they're all going to get bunched back up, and then that's all Sabelski is really going to need to get around them, I think. He's on much newer tires, and I believe all of them have another set of tires still on pit lane to use. I think that they have multiple sets of tires here to use this season. We will just have to see. We have crossed the line past the 150 lap mark though, so we're in the final quarter of tonight's event. I'll tell you what, it has been very hectic for these drivers. Definitely a lot more than it was last week at New Smyrna Speedways. We have a pass for the lead. Joshua Rudolph side by side with Daniel Sparks. Rudolph down on the bottom, Sparks up on the high line. And coming across the line here, Sparks will be leading his first lap of, or excuse me, Rudolph will be leading his first lap of tonight's event. And that means he will be picking up a bonus point to his name. And considering our championship leader right now only has 21 points, every point matters here in the ASRC Oval Series. Now the big question is, will we see Sparks be able to get it back at all? Looking at the lap time, Sparks still is very, very, very slightly faster, but that scrape against the outside wall really hurt his momentum here, and it's going to be hard to get that back. Another scrape against the wall there going down the back straightaway, so that's going to be doing him even more difficulty there. And sure enough, falling down to about half a second deficit here for the race lead between these two drivers. In the meantime, Zabelski has gotten that 10-second gap down to 7.3 now. Zabelski, his tires have fallen off to the point that he's running almost identical lap times to Rudolph and Sparks here at this point. We'll see how things look as they cross the line here. 16.98 for Daniel Sparks, 16.91 for Sabelski. So a little bit faster, but not even a full tenth of a second. That's going to be hard to make up that 7-second deficit without a caution here. I'll tell you what, Rudolph and Daniel Sparks, the two of them would be some kind of upset winners here in the Oval Series if one of them was able to get it. Looking at our stats here for these drivers, Joshua Rudolph here in the ASRC Oval Series. If I can get it to come up on me here. In his 72 starts here, Joshua Rudolph has taken home no wins so far. So Rudolph actually is still winless in the Oval Series with 72 starts to his name. Average finish of 7th. On the other hand, Daniel Sparks has 82 starts here in the league, has 3 wins to his name, average finishing position of 7.5. So both of these drivers pretty evenly matched with each other in terms of stats in the ASRC Oval Series, but Sparks has slightly more of an advantage over Rudolph just in the wins department, but like all the rest of the way down the field, it's pretty close to each other. But really, anyone's game here tonight between these two drivers. That said, both of them are starting to lose some pace here. Last time by, a 17.20 for Rudolph, a 17.25 for Sparks. Sabelski still running 16.9s. Sabelski has a little bit more of a chance to catch up than I first thought. Right now, he's at a 5-second deficit here on lap 170. We'll see how he's doing here once we get towards the lap 80 margin. As long as he can make up more than 2 seconds every 10 laps, he should be okay. Big if, though. 30 laps left to go as Brian Sabelski tries to work out his way to catch back up to these two front runners. You can take a look here at the lap times here between himself and Joshua Rudolph, though, as they come across the line. 16.6 or 16.99 for Sabelski. 17.239 our last lap for Rudolph. So we'll see how he manages to do, but I think he might actually be able to make his way up there. He's gained a second in about 4 laps. And speaking of, that battle is heating up for the first place position as Daniel Sparks starts to gain some ground back up. Not quite ready to make a move, but he's gotten it down as close as he's had it for a little while now. Going to be 25 to go when we come across the line. It's going to be down to Rudolph and Sparks. Will they be able to keep the pace up fast enough to keep Brian Sabelski from catching up and making up that 4-second gap? I think it's going to be difficult. I think right now Sabelski looks to be in the clear to make up those final 4 seconds and catch back up to these two. And we can take a look at the pit stops and see roughly where everyone lies in terms of when they last stopped. You can see Rudolph, Sparks, both Rudolph actually pitted a little bit after Sparks. I forgot Rudolph pitted around lap 125. But Sparks has not pitted since lap number 62. Sabelski, Gardner, Alicia all pitted around lap 111. And a strafe against the outside wall there for Daniel Sparks. Once again, that's ruining all of the momentum he had in this battle. Now with 20 laps left to go, Sabelski's made up about 1.5 seconds. It's going to be close here, y'all. It's going to be very, very close. A better thing to look at maybe is the stint length here. Sparks has been running on these tires for 118 laps. Sabelski and Gardner have been running on them for only 70. So that's where a big part of the lap time difference between these drivers is right now, is just from the difference on their pit stop strategies. Sparks once again is closing in on Rudolph here with 19 laps to go, but there's Brian Sabelski. Sabelski is suddenly in the picture. He's going to get involved in this battle in probably the next 3 to 4 laps here, as we're side by side for the race lead. And as these two duke it out, they're slowing each other down and allowing Sabelski to catch back up. He is not out of this fight yet in that number 85 machine. He's got within 1 second of the race leader. Now with 16 laps left to go. And I think we've established Sabelski's got enough pace. He should be able to make up a second deficit in 16 laps. He's already got it down to 0.6 seconds as Rudolph and Sparks continue to battle it out there. Sabelski had a scrape against the outside wall. That slowed him down just a little bit there going down the front straightaway. But just like that, it's now a 3-way battle for your race lead, and Sabelski is on, call it about 40, maybe even 50 lap newer tires than these other drivers. I think the only thing Rudolph and Sparks can really try to do at this point is run side by side and just block the entire track from Sabelski. But I don't think they're going to be able to manage to do that. Not for 14 whole laps. Side by side here, Sabelski trying to get around that Ford machine of Sparks. Side by side, but not quite able to clear him just because he's got Rudolph in front of him. Sabelski doing his best to be patient. He drifts up the track just a little bit. Don't think he made contact there with Sparks, but he has gotten around him up to the second position. Now Rudolph really is a sitting duck, because I think that 85 is going to be able to get around him on the high side here. Now the question loops around to, will Jason Gardner be able to make up that 1 second deficit and get his way up onto the podium here? 11 laps left to go here at the Five Flag Speedway. Still a three-way battle for the race lead, and Jason Gardner is rapidly approaching the picture here as well. Side by side, coming out of turn number 4. Still, Rudolph has the very slight advantage here down on the bottom of the raceway. That's definitely the preferred place to be, but I don't know that it will be enough with the tire wear difference between the two of them. 9 to go this time by. Jason Gardner is now officially a part of the scene. This is going to be a four-way battle for the race lead here with 9 laps left to go here in tonight's event at the Five Flags Speedway. Daniel Sparks, he's still trying to get a piece of the action here as well. And looking around at the lap times, they really have equalized between our top 4 drivers right now. Everyone is running 17.3s. It really is anyone's game out of these 4 drivers. Like, they're all right on top of each other in terms of lap time. Sabelski is very slowly starting to pull ahead, but he hasn't been able to quite clear Rudolph. He still just barely has the nose in there, and that's keeping him from coming down to the bottom, but sure enough, just manages to get clear. And now Gardner's into the picture. He's battling for a podium spot here with Daniel Sparks. And now that Sabelski has clean air to work with 5 laps left to go, I'd imagine we're going to see him start to very slowly start to pull away from the rest of the field, just like that. Now can Gardner work his way around these 2 slower cars? Big high five up in the air from Barney the Flagman. 5 laps left to go here at the Five Flags Speedway for round number 2 of season number 21. Sabelski's pulling away with the race lead. It's now just a game of the podium here for these 3 drivers, Rudolph, Gardner, and Sparks. All digging it out for the final couple of podium positions, but I'm not quite sure they're going to be able to catch up to Sabelski here. Gardner running up on the high line, trying to see if he can't do what Sabelski did and make it work up there. But Sparks, again, he's still in it here with 3 laps left to go. And he sends it in deep, makes contact with the number 93. Jason Gardner is around and stopped on the middle of the speedway. And the caution flag is out once again with 2 laps left to go. Well, we're going to rack them up and stack them up and try this thing again. Wow. And Brian Sabelski is going to dip on down to pit lane. Brian Sabelski has a black flag. Why does he have a black flag? What did he get a black flag for? Race fans, I have so many questions right now. We're also being displayed the white flag, which has me very curious if we don't have overtime this season. There seems to be a little bit of confusion on what all is going on right now. Our timing and scoring is saying that Joshua Rudolph is the race leader here for the time being, with Sabelski coming down to pit lane. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. We will see here. Okay, I think we are going to be extending the race. I think. I'm not positive, but considering that our timing and scoring has displayed the white flag multiple times now, and For those of you who are invested here in motorsports, I think we all know that the white flag should not be getting displayed multiple times, so I think we are going to be going into overtime here. Barney still has the caution flag out, not the white flag. And the lights are out on the safety truck. Okay, so we will be going back green again for what I can only assume is a green-white checkered. We'll have to see here. We're being told Joshua Rudolph and Daniel Sparks are going to be our race leaders on this restart. Then Kevin Alessia, Jason Gardner in 3rd and 4th. Then Brian Sabelski back in 5th. Your top 5 drivers all on the lead lap. The pace truck's off. And sure enough, green flag is back up in the air. Is this the white flag for real? No, it is not. We have 2 laps left to go. This will be a green-white checkered finish. Heading down into turns number 3 and 4. So far, so good. A little bit of contact for our race leaders here. Now the real white flag for real is up in the air. Side by side for Rudolph and Sparks. Jason Gardner just behind here. Jason going to make a move up the high line. They make contact for the race lead. Everyone is checking up. Everyone is wrecking. Monumental impact. Joshua Rudolph is going to cross the line in 1st. And it's a mad dash to the finish for everyone else. Brian Sabelski is going to bring it home in 2nd. Jason Gardner is being scored in 3rd. Kevin Alessia in 4th. Daniel Sparks is being scored in 5th. Race fans, there is a lot to mentally and emotionally process here. I'm seeing multiple penalties being displayed for multiple drivers. I'm not sure if that's going to be affecting things, but tentatively, we're gonna real quick go back. We're gonna watch this again. Maybe break out our top-down view here as we're just gonna go through this whole restart again. We'll follow Sabelski just so we have a little bit of a more zoomed out view of what's all going on here. Looking back at this restart, as Rudolph and Daniel Sparks leading the field, and everything was pretty fine and dandy for the 1st lap. And then, of course, this is where the white flag goes out. We kept things okay through turns 1 and 2. Now we head down the back straightaway, and this is where things kind of go wrong. Contact between Rudolph and Sparks. Everyone stacks up. Everyone wrecks. No one is safe. Rudolph goes on to win the race. Everyone else races it to the finish. Sabelski, Gardner, Alessia finishes across the line backwards. What an evening it has been here at the Five Flags Speedway. But it is going to be saying that Joshua Rudolph is our race winner here tonight. So what an event it's been. I'm having to process a lot here. But that said, we're going to be back here in just a minute. We're going to get some words with what timing and scoring is saying is our top 3 finish here. So don't go over, race fans. I'm sure we're going to be hearing lots of spicy things on this interview. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back. 200, well, actually, I think more like 202, 203, something like that. Lots of laps of racing here at the Five Flag Speedway under our belt here tonight. And it's going to be Mr. Joshua Rudolph up here in Victory Lane here with me. Joshua, how are you feeling here tonight?
Beyond words, man. This so pumped up. Man, I was screaming on the radio there at the end. I was so pumped. I think I blew out Merck's eardrum because, man, this is a feeling that you don't get again. A first time win in any league across the board and hard one fought. I was on the ropes a couple times and dug deep and caught a break and then was just consistent and boy, just beyond words. Just pumped, excited, fantastic, happy, 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 and just beyond believable here. Just
Absolutely, definitely a heck of a drive here tonight. How are you looking on terms of fuel? I'll admit I didn't do my homework and calculate the fuel mileage at all for this race, but I wasn't entirely sure you were going to make it.
it was gonna be close. Once I was back in the ball game, and I said I ain't pitting. I ain't pitting unless I run out. I put enough fuel in it to give me, I guess, a buffer. I just left it on auto 5, and it gave me a couple extra laps, which was what I needed. I was able to roll around 2 extra laps. So I would say probably within a lap and a half, hard racing, 2.5, somewhere in that range is what I had left. I didn't have much, and I didn't plan to run extra tonight. So
Yeah, it definitely worked out there then. Coming into tonight's event, did you think that this would be a car and track combo where you'd be taking home your first win?
nah, I didn't do a lot of. I didn't really run at all. The last time I ran here in this car combo was a snowball derby, and it wasn't this year; it was last year. And they made an update to this car. I mean, they tweaked something to feel real good and real snug. And yeah, I made a mistake twice early, and then one putting me in the wall. Got a caution back to fix the damage, and then I don't know. We're balanced so tight for third, four of us that uh, I just kind of had to check up a little bit for Kevin, and Daniel didn't realize enough that I had to check up that far. So sucks that me and Mark and I think Kevin got a little bit. Daniel definitely got some. Michael got some out of all that. I mean, that race is going to be a battle for a podium, and yes, it worked out better for me, but I had to dig deep, real deep. I had a lot of damage there the last half of the race. A lot of damage. I had to crawl back probably 2 or 3 different times. And and this track, it'll eat you up quick. But if you can run smooth and steady, you can really do wonders. Figure out a diamond or even a high groove, you can really make up time.
Definitely a heck of a run for you here tonight. Of course, now after I believe about roughly 80 races here with the league, you've gotten your first win. What's your goal that you're looking forward to now from stepping off of this point, and how do you feel about your prospects for the rest of the season?
Uh, well, there ain't no lie. I'm in a championship hunt, but Brian, I got nothing overall. If we ran straight up, you've got me every time. Jason, you're just as quick. I'm probably like a third or fourth place kind of guy, right in that podium area, tail end of it. Next week, Hickory, I got a lot of experience in a pretty similar car around there. I think that I put a little bit of effort in. We'll probably be fighting for another podium. And for the season, I don't know. These endurance races, these short track races, they'll eat me up alive if I make one small mistake. That happened 2 weeks ago. I made a mistake of 30 to go, and it ate me alive and killed it. So a lot of patience, a lot of consistency, and just got to keep at it. These cars are really fun when you can understand how to do them a little bit. And if you can just keep that right front underneath you, these are really snug. And if you don't have a it's underfoot, these are even better. Really good racing with somebody once these tires are warmed up.
Definitely seems to me like we have a lot to be looking forward to here this season. Of course, before I let you go, though, the microphone is all yours. Who do you want to thank for making your first league win happen?
And this process, this journey is a long time. Been with you guys for over a year. This is, you said, the 80th start. I can't thank enough my sponsors. K9P Racing, teammates there. These guys are amazing. Encouragement every day, encouragement every run. Always positive out of K9P. And then for the hobby, Jordan, we did it, man. Jordan, we did it. Let's go. Joe Gaddy, Tim, and Johnny, we did it too, man. Can't thank Dad for all the coaching throughout time and his background and his confidence, and my family for watching, and my friends for listening. And man, there's a lot of you guys that are thankful that have helped me along the way. Teammates, people I race with, people that are on team events, and then sponsorship, family, and friends. You guys have all got a part of this, and this isn't just a one-man effort. This is a whole team effort, long time, and just keep digging and digging. And at one point tonight, I said, if I get a caution, I'm back in this game. And I was back in this game, and had to be damn consistent. And Daniel is just consistent too. He made one mistake. I finally got around him, and Brian was coming in a hurry. And then all of a sudden, Jason caught us. It was a 4-man show for the end, and Brian didn't pit. I didn't get this win. So, Brian, I don't know if it's fuel based or what, but thanks for pitting there, giving me the lead, and able to hold the bottom. This right front was absolutely gone tonight. But man, I can't thank these guys enough. We did it.
Good deal. Well, congratulations on getting your first win here with the league. It's been a heck of a show here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week over at Hickory.
Thank you.
And finishing back here in position number 2, Mr. Brian Sabelski. Brian, it's been a roller coaster of a night, but you're still walking away with a podium finish and definitely still leading the championship point standings, I'm pretty sure. So how are you feeling here tonight?
That was weird. That was a weird race, just all around. Yeah, it's just, this track is just, it does weird stuff, and tonight was another one of those oddball races. Fuel told me I was good until it told me I was two laps short, and I tried to save at the end, and then the caution came out, and I knew I didn't have enough to make it around the whole caution. I had just enough to get to the end under green, but no way with those extra caution laps, and then the green laps was I going to make it. So I had the pit. I couldn't, if I stayed out, I would have run out of fuel, under caution, and just a bunch of stuff, just pace car being slow, not catching up. And the whole thing at the end there with the big wreck and getting bounced off every single wall and somehow still squirting out of it in second. I guess I should be pretty lucky. I guess I will consider myself pretty lucky that I somehow still pull the P2 out of all that. Yeah, but kind of it should have been a P1, but hey, these things happen. Points wise, we're on even points tonight, so basically, we didn't lose anything. We didn't gain anything on Josh. We didn't lose anything on Josh. We gained on Jason. Gained on everybody else. So that's good. These things, that's how they work, and maybe we don't walk out here with a win, but we still walk out here in the lead in the points, and just hopefully continuing momentum next week.
And I guess that does kind of lead into my next question. Next week, going into an even shorter and even tighter track than this one. So how are you feeling about your outlook about heading to Hickory for 250 laps?
A little worried. Hickory's not a track that I've done really well at in the past. I've tended to struggle there quite a bit, so I guess I guess we'll see how that all shakes out. These things work out in the end, so we'll do what we'll do what we can next week to try and see if we can have a little better luck at Hickory than I've had in the past. It's a good group. I mean, I guess if anything, I can't be too upset that I managed to run everybody else down there at the end somehow and pass them all. Coming to like 2 or 3 to go. So I got race clean all night by everybody. Nobody was doing anything they shouldn't have been doing. There's just some unfortunate contact there at the end, but you're gonna have that on these late race restarts with like 2-3 laps to go. So yeah, it is what it is. But hey, we'll we'll re-rack and we'll get ready for next week.
Seems like a solid plan. All in all, a pretty good finish and a pretty good start to the season for you. Of course, before I let you go and get ready for next week, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who you want to thank for getting back up here on the podium?
So I do want to first off say congrats, Josh, on getting your first dub here. It's always good, I think, for this league to see people up at the front that are not always up at the front and winning and just doing well, because I think it's good to not have it be me just kind of like for example, like me just stomping all everybody wouldn't be very fun, and I wouldn't find it fun either. I had to work for it tonight just to even be in position for that, and I'm sad, but hey, good race, good strategy, Josh. You managed to make it work. So first off, congrats to you. Of course, thank folks at Maconi Setup Shop, official setup shop at eNASCAR, and SM Racing Products. Love your button box. Thank you so much, guys. Team at Denver Racing Social, great place if you're in the Metro Denver area to do some sim racing, watch some motorsports when those big events happen. Who else we gotta thank? Jason for admitting the league. You for broadcasting, Aiden. I appreciate it. And gosh, I feel like I'm forgetting people, and I feel bad. Let me see here real quick. Let me look through my notes. Notes. Dragon Roast Coffee. Those guys are the best. So, yeah, love them. Check them out if you're interested. If you use the code Nihon Tiger, NIHONTIGER, you get 10% off your order. So check it out. But yeah, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week.
There you go, folks. Brian Zabelski bringing the Super Miata home in second. Finally, back in third here, gonna be none other than league admin himself, Mr. Jason Gardner. Jason, it's been arguably even more of a roller coaster for you than I think it has been for Sabelski. You've been kind of all over the place here tonight, but you managed to walk away with a podium finish. So how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I pretty much feels like I've been everywhere but the grandstands. It seems.
Yeah, definitely a very mixed race, but it's like Brian was saying, tonight has been, I think, pretty weird for everyone. How are you feeling coming into tonight's event, and did you do as well as you were hoping for?
I was feeling pretty good. I normally run well. I usually have decent pace here at Five Flags, so I was pretty optimistic of at least being in contention for the win.
And sure enough, I mean, for a decent chunk of the race, it seemed like that's what you were doing. What do you think might have had to have gone different for tonight for you to have been taking home the checkered flag?
Maybe if we had a couple of less cautions, because yeah, both me and Brian kind of got stuck a lap down with that caution that came out just a little after halfway when we're both just stuck a lap down.
Fair enough. It's definitely been an interesting season, or an interesting start to 2026. So how are you feeling about the remainder of this season?
I'm feeling pretty optimistic. If it, I'm actually pretty much enjoy this car. I really enjoy the schedule, and hopefully, as long as bad luck doesn't rear its head, hopefully I'll have a pretty decent season this season.
Good deal. Hopefully we'll be able to see some stuff work out for you here in this season, but getting a podium to your name's pretty solid to kick off the 2026 year. But that's
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, what were you saying?
I don't know, I lost my train of thought now. We both talked at the same time and suddenly everything scrambled.
Line.
Yeah. Ooh. This is actually, yeah, this has just been one of those races for here today, because after racing all the way back up to up in contention to win the race right there before that last caution. Ooh, it's not very often. My it feels like my heart is actually in my throat, which that's pretty much how it was for those last laps.
Fair enough. Definitely seems to me like maybe after a finish like that, you might need to unwind a little bit. So I won't be keeping you here all night. Of course, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Gardner. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
I'd like to thank Johnny Bell, ASRC for having this league so we can host the ASRC Oval Series. Also like to thank our title sponsor, SM Racing. They make very good button boxes if you in the market for one. I also like to thank you for broadcasting these races, because it's always fun to go back and rewatch these races. And I also like to thank everybody who raced today and everybody who's out there watching the broadcast, because without y'all, none of this would be possible.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium finish, and I look forward to seeing you at Hickory next week.
I'm looking to see y'all next week as well.
Oh, you heard it here first, race fans. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Joshua Rudolph, Brian Sabelski, and Jason Gardner here, your podium here tonight. But of course, those weren't the only drivers out on the speedway. So how about we take a look at our unofficial race results after that little bit of a kerfuffle of a finish. Looking at the scoring, looks like Kevin Alicia in that SRC's number 7 machine is going to be the driver back in the 4th position, followed by Daniel Sparks, rounding out your top 5 for the Mooselander Racing team. Then back in 6th, it's going to be the CZ Robotics number 24 of Corey Logan, followed by Michael Sparks in the 42 machine back in 7th. Then finally, back in 8th, rounding out the tail end of the field, that's going to be the number 45 of Mark Kluge. That said, that's just about all we've got here tonight for the Five Flags Speedway. Next week, heading on over to Hickory Motor Speedway for a 250-lap race over on January 12th. That's bound to be a fun one. Of course, those of you tuning in who are iRacing drivers, if you're looking for a new league to compete in, ASRC is always interested in having new folks. The only requirement is to be a clean and respectful driver. Otherwise, of course, gotta give a big thank you to our friends over at SM Racing Products for sponsoring the ASRC Oval Series and helping us put this whole show on. Definitely great to have them all on board. And otherwise, that's just about all we've got here for tonight. So thank you all for tuning in here this evening, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a good evening.